This week I had one thought in my head regarding preaching this morning. I should preach a nice sermon this week. 2 weeks ago I preached on King David behaving like a villain, and that wasn't especially nice. Last week I challenged the way some Christians regard the Bible, and that wouldn't have been nice for some. As for this week, I'm about to head off on leave for a couple of weeks beginning tomorrow, and so you're not going to hear from me for a couple of Sundays. Good news is you will hear from Rosemary and Tom, so everything's okay. Dennis. Oh, Dennis Ryle. Dennis and Tom. I'm sorry. It's all going to be good, is what I'm trying to say. We've got a wealth, an abundant embarrassment of riches. That's good. Just everybody relax. But you're not going to hear from me for a couple of Sundays, so it did feel extra important for me to say something lovely to you this week. And then, to further confirm this impulse I had, I read this beautiful piece of verse by the wonderful Sufi poet Hafiz, which drove the point even further. And he wrote, "For a day, just for a day, talk about that which disturbs no one and brings joy into your beautiful eyes." Isn't that gorgeous? So here then, from my loving and earnest urge to say something which disturbs no one and brings joy, is my very nice and lovely sermon that is all about anger. We followers of Jesus often value being nice, feeding people without food of their own, providing blankets and warm clothes in the winter, turning the other cheek, forgiving people, loving even our enemies. These are nice things. They're super nice. They're radically nice. They're world-changingly nice. But let's acknowledge for a second that nice isn't that much of a compliment. It's a bit of a weak adjective. There are so many words that mean so much more, and we should use them more often. So if we describe a person as kind or warm or empathic or delightful or generous or even sweet, we're actually saying something, I think. But if someone hands you a present and you say, "Oh, how nice," chances are you don't really think that much of the gift. Nice is a bit like benign. It means not at all malicious, safe, but also kind of banal and uninteresting. Don't get me wrong, I would much rather have a nice encounter with a stranger than a confronting exchange. Nice interactions are pleasant, and pleasant is good compared to challenging. It's less taxing of our mood and our energy. On many days, we just don't want our boat rocked. And we want to say, why can't everyone just be nice? For 2 or 3 generations of people, The Simpsons have been a cultural touchstone. And there is no character nicer in all the world's canon of literature and theatre and film and TV than Ned Flanders. Tirelessly nice Ned is the nicest person, the nicest neighbour, and the nicest Christian. He's so nice, he bothers Homer by being so nice. It's fascinating to me that in a show that is built largely on satirising power and traditional cultures of power, Ned's faith is not mocked by the writers of that show. He is not portrayed as a hypocrite. His faith is genuine and he lives by it. In one episode, Ned literally calls on God to assist him, and God respects Ned so much that he literally reaches down from heaven and helps Ned on the spot. Who couldn't respect Ned? He's just so nice. There's another episode, though, which rings especially true to me. This one episode where Ned finally snaps. In a dramatic contrast to his usual defining courtesy and gentleness, his rage and frustration spills over and he loses his rag at everyone and everything. He loses control of his anger within him because he spent so long repressing and denying that anger. This is comedy, of course, but like all good comedy, it's illustrating a universal truth. We need to own our anger, or one day our anger will own us. And this is a big reason that I really appreciate the wisdom of this piece we've read from Ephesians today. The writer of the letter has some profound and beautiful things to say about how to act and how to be. Now, I do say the writer of the letter because it probably wasn't the Apostle Paul so much as a later apostle writing in Paul's name. I'm not going to dwell on that because some of you might find it confronting, and I don't want you to be angry because this is a very nice sermon. Let's move on. The writer of Ephesians says this about anger. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your anger, and do not make room for the devil. Strong words. Did you hear that? Be angry. Yes, there's a but following straight after, but the affirmation of anger is there. The acknowledgement of anger is there. The letter doesn't tell the church at Ephesus to avoid anger, but to be mindful and careful with it. Anger is powerful fuel. A capful of it will get a warming fire burning from damp wood. A bucketful will burn your house down. For a lot of us, we'll have an uncomfortable response to the word, to the very thought of anger. And usually that will stem from our experience. Maybe you're a person who lived through a difficult marriage to an unhealthily angry person. Maybe you grew up in a house with a frighteningly angry parent. And sure, it makes complete sense that if you've only ever recognised anger as a bucket of petrol hurled around the living room, then of course you'll have an anxious or resentful response to anger. Because we all know anger can very quickly get out of hand and become very harmful. It can become violent, can become abusive, can become destructive. When the writer to the Ephesians says anger unregulated makes room for the devil, they are not mucking about. Anger can and does destroy lives. Anger, though, also protects lives. Anger drives creativity. Anger is passion. Anger is resolve. Anger is a dynamic flame within us that sees unnecessary suffering in the world and says, enough of that. I'm going to do something about it. A mistake we often make is to see anger as separate to other energies in a person. We often see anger as separate to love. But anyone who's ever got protectively angry of a young child knows that isn't true. Anger and love very much sit within each other. We often see anger as separate to hope, or we'll see anger as separate to joy. Now, hopefully that picture is up. You're looking at me going, anger and joy, you say. How can they ever be one and the same? Now, trust me on this. I worked as a stand-up comic for many years. And what kept me in that trade, even though my heart was coming more and more into sort of doing the Jesus thing, if you like, was that the defining value of a good comedian is seeing the things in human nature and society that are disturbing and are provocative, that are angering, that are just not right and unequal, and taking that stirring of a flame within them and expressing it into words that shine a light and bring joy. A great comedian burns a big fire that lets the village dance around it, and the darkness can go hang. Some Christians use the phrase spiritual warfare, and I can think of no better example. Me? I'm a very angry person. It's part of my baseline nature, and I didn't own that for years. I was in my late 20s when a wise spiritual director told me I wouldn't grow in my spiritual maturity until I embraced my anger. I was gobsmacked by that prognosis at the time. Come on, I said. Angry? Me? Have you met me? My dad was angry. I'm a total sweetheart and teddy bear. I was so young and so naive. And if I've learned anything in the last couple of decades, it's that anger is my greatest gift, as well as my greatest responsibility. And when I keep that flame well tended, it's that drives my warmth and kindness and creativity, and I can mind the door to the room that can house a compassion like Jesus, where the devil might otherwise get in and set up an assembly line of toxins. I love a line from the actor Mark Ruffalo in the first Avengers movie. Adam down the back might be the only one who appreciates this reference, but go with me. Ruffalo plays Bruce Banner. He's the guy who risks turning into the Hulk if he gets angry enough. And all through the film, the dangerously curious and mischievous Tony Stark prods and irritates Banner, wondering at what point he has to reach before he'll transform into the green rage monster. Banner calmly shrugs it all off, and the other heroes wonder what his secret of anger management might be. But then the climactic moment comes. A massive threatening alien beast is coming, and Captain America turns to Banner and he says, "Dr. Banner, you better get angry." And as Dr. Banner effortlessly lets his quieted rage transform him instantly into the not-so-jolly green giant, he replies, "That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry." This very nice sermon about anger won't speak to all of you. And many of you, I know, just aren't angry people. It's not your gift. It's not your makeup. It's not your challenge. You're not even in danger, probably, of losing your mind over repressed rage like dear old Ned Flanders one day. We're not all wired the same, and thank God for that. Pastoral letters, like the letter to the Ephesians, they were written to entire communities, at least as diverse as in personality as ours. These letters, though, they do touch on universalities in human nature. So any of us who are motivated to do good, to make a positive change in the world, to take Jesus on as a role model, we do that because something, anger or not, stirs us up and fuels us. So maybe it's a kind of anger. Maybe it's a powerful empathy for others. Maybe it's a love for the world that won't sit still. Maybe it's a hope or a vision for how things can be done better. Maybe it's simply an intellectual curiosity that says, well, human beings not caring about others hasn't worked out very well for the world so far. Maybe I'll try something else and see how that pans out. If it is an anger within you, and even if I'm only talking to 15% of us, I don't know, don't fear it and don't be ashamed of it. Curate it, use it, employ it. Tend to it like a craftsman tends to very delicate tools. You know who got angry? Quite a bit. Jesus of Nazareth. And thank God he did. So me, I will go on minding my anger very carefully, tending to it and being grateful for the gift. So when I look at humanity and see so many people thinking they're unworthy of love and grace and equality and respect and wondering who the hell told them they're unworthy, I'll recognise the flicker of the flame of my anger and be grateful that it can motivate me on a good day to do something sort of like Jesus did. All of you, my sisters and my brothers, it's all holy. All of you is holy. It's all a privilege, and it's all a responsibility, and it all requires wisdom, and it all requires moderation, but it's all holy. Hold it all, use it all, love it all, just as God loves you. God doesn't make mistakes. And the greatest mistake we make is forgetting that. Draw on your hope, draw on your love, draw on your artfulness, your joy, your curiosity, and if you got it, draw on your anger. It's the fire of change, and we are a people of change for the better. Amen.